Welcome. This is a portion of a 2 hour conversation that took place in June of 2019 after the NRA national meetings. A conversation about NRA with Mac from Military Arms Channel, Jeff Knox from Firearms Coalition, Rob Pincus from ICE and 2AO, Shawn from We Like Shooting, and Jared from Guns and Gadgets. Together, we talked about the current state of the NRA, where it's going, and what we can do. Links to each of the participants and the full 2 hour conversation are available below.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that we want to chat about with the status of the NRA today? We kind of talked a bit about its legal status in New York. Tim, when you were talking about, why, out of frustration, they haven't moved out of New York. Do you guys know, is that something that they could have done and chose to not do it, or because of some reason it's easier to stay there or something?
As best as I can determine from conversations I've had with board members, it's just lack of management. The people that are being paid to be managers of that organization are just acting like board directors, like, Tom Selleck, who never shows up for a vote. It's just a feather in its cap. That the executives that lead that organization soak up big salaries and they don't do their jobs. And that's going to get them into trouble. I mean, just like Knox just said, they could be moving right now to get the charter moved to another state and away from New York. But despite the pressure they're feeling right now, they're still doing nothing. All they can think about is saving Wayne LaPierre. That whole organization exists to make a handful of people filthy rich and live like royalty.
There's also the issue of right now the victim card that, the NRA, part of their pandering to this small niche of gun owners who've been supporting the organization for the last decade plus, really is part of that is fear mongering. And part of that means constantly playing the victim. And they've been really, really good at using this fact that New York is after them and, the mean liberals in New York. The fact is, if they had moved to Arizona, they'd still be under investigation for these things. As these things are coming out, it would be Arizona, North Dakota, Texas, Florida. Imagine if they couldn't play the we're a victim of the mean liberal organization in New York coming after us. If it were because these investigations, the wrongdoings, the fiduciary neglect is real. And they aren't even refuting the allegations, right? They're playing the victim card. So if they were to jump and move, there's a couple things going on right now. First of all, they're playing the victim card. We're going to go bankrupt. We're not going to be able to do business in New York. It's going to kill us. We need to be able to be free. Ironically, they're asking for freedom of speech issues in New York, but they don't want the members talking to them. They won't let some of the board members even speak freely about what goes on in the executive session. But they're playing that victim card against New York, while at the same time, Carolyn Meadows is putting out statements that we're perfectly fine, we're solvent, we're good. The NRA has never been in better financial shape. And there's these mixed messages coming out depending on what day of the week somebody wants to listen. Eventually, they're going to hear what they want to hear to be able to keep waving the NRA flag, and they're counting on enough firearms owners, enough Americans continuing to wave that flag and send in the $40 a year or spend the $150 here and there to continue the cronyism and the enrichment. That's the NRA today, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that's seriously a perception of how the organization could be dealt with because they're in New York and they've dealt with the money and everything irresponsibly. So
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We hear a lot of discussions like, if we take the ILA and throw it away, but if we keep the hunting and we keep the training and we keep these, it's not like we get this Lego set that they're going to take apart and give us the pieces, right? It's there.
No. And this
that's
is
exactly what Letitia James is trying to do with the AG in New York. She just was talking to people a couple days ago about it. She's going right after him.
And this is what the NRA should be doing at this moment, if nothing else. They should open up a new charter in North Dakota or Arizona and start moving components of the NRA into that new charter as quickly as they possibly can. Give it a clean bill of health. Make sure that there is no kind of financial problems in that division, and move that division over into a new charter. They're not doing any of this. All they're focused on right now is saving Wayne LaPierre, and that is not what's good for the NRA. Wayne LaPierre needs to go. He needs to either be fired or resign. There's a succession plan in place by the bylaws, And Joe DeBergalis is currently the executive director of general operations. He would step up into Wayne's, it's not Wayne's chair, he would step up into the executive vice presidency while a search was taken to find the best person for that job. And that's what needs to happen, and it needs to happen 2 months ago.
Now, isn't the IRS also looking into the NRA, and they may lose their nonprofit status?
There have been people who have asked them to do that, and there is probably an investigation going on from the IRS, but I've seen nothing official from the IRS saying that they are.
Okay. But they wouldn't talk about an open investigation
No.
Probably anyway.
Yeah, they're not like obligated to say, here's what we're doing next, right?
Oh,
Unless
no.
they're trying to make a big grandstand about it.
I've just
But
heard, through the grapevine that the IRS is looking into them about losing their nonprofit status because of some of the mismanagement and the allocation of funds and how money's being spent and not being reported. So if nothing else, the IRS is fully aware of what Wayne LaPierre has done, if not for himself, but other executives within the organization.
And there are committees in Congress that have the authority to look into them as well, and they are doing that. They've launched investigations into it, and of course, then you've got Bloomberg or the Bradys have filed a lawsuit trying to force the FEC to get involved, Federal Elections Commission, because of some irregularities in the way NRA spent money in the last couple of elections. That should be thrown out for lack of standing. I don't agree with that. But past cases, Alan Gottlieb sued the FEC to try and force them to take action back in the Clinton administration when Clinton stole $3 million from the federal government, and they ignored it. They threw it out of court, said that Gottlieb didn't have standing, and so the same thing should happen to the Bradys, but there's a difference between Alan Gottlieb bringing a case and the Bradys bringing a case, because the Democrat judges have a tendency to be much more political than and lean towards Democrat or progressive causes. So no telling where that's going to go.
This is a portion of a 2-hour conversation that took place in June of 2019 after the NRA national meetings. A conversation about NRA with Mac from Military Arms Channel, Jeff Knox from Firearms Coalition, Rob Pincus from I.C.E. and 2AO, Shawn from We Like Shooting, and Jared from Guns and Gadgets. Together, we talked about the current state of the NRA, where it's going, and what we can do. Links to each of the participants and the full 2-hour conversation are available below.